Hi everyone, and welcome back to Blatantly Bookish. I'm Marissa, and today I'm here with my November reading wrap-up. So November was a bit of a strange reading month for me. I read 6 works. 2 of them were a graphic novel series. One of them was nonfiction for Nonfiction November, and then 2 novels. So let's get into the books. So the first book I read in the month of November was a nonfiction book, and that was Bad Girls, Sirens, Jezebels, Murderesses, Thieves, and Other Villains. And that was by Jane Yolen, Heidi Stemple, and illustrated by Rebecca Guay. Now, these were little stories about these notorious women, including people like Delilah, Cleopatra, Anne Boleyn, Bonnie, as in Bonnie and Clyde, Lizzie Borden, Typhoid Mary, and many others. All of the stories are written in the most witty and colloquial way, and they're followed by these little comics of the authors engaging in quippy debates that are set in a relevant setting to the story. So, for example, after Cleopatra, they're in the Egyptian wing of a museum. And after Calamity Jane, they're watching a Western movie. And after the Pirates one, they're on the beach. So they quickly discuss whether the woman was misunderstood, and they often put the woman in a modern context. They never really come to a conclusion because they want you to think about it, I think. But the book addresses what qualities make a female, quote-unquote, bad. Are these notorious bad girls misunderstood, or do they truly deserve their reputations? And how would these women be perceived and treated in today's society? I loved all of the puns as well. They had so many great puns. They said Lizzie Borden was one wacky woman, as in W-H-A-C-K-Y, like whack. And Delilah was a snip of a woman. Pirates in petticoats. Okay, that wasn't much of a pun, but I really like the alliteration there. And I think my favorite stories were actually Anne Bonny and Mary Read, who were the pirates in petticoats in the late 1600s to 1720s. And also Beulah Annan, I don't know if I'm saying any of these names right, by the way, today, and Belva Gardner, who were Chicago's merry murderesses. These are 4 women that I had never heard of before, who had fascinating stories. Female pirates are just so brave and badass, and apparently they were the last 2 pirates standing and fought valiantly despite being outnumbered. Plus, I love how they use the excuse of pregnancy in the end to escape death, and how their endings are kind of mysterious, and they just trail off. No one knows what happened to them. Also, I had no idea about Chicago's Merry Murderesses. Their story is what the play and movie Chicago is based on. It's a really entertaining little book, and I recommend that you give it a try. It's kind of a light read, but at the same time, it talks about some heavy issues. So the next book I read was The Rabbitback Literature Society by an author whose name I'm not even going to begin to pronounce. I'll leave it in the description below. It's about a woman who is inducted into this secret society. Only 9 people have been chosen by this renowned children's author, Laura White, to join this secret society. They're this elite group of writers, and they have just selected their 10th member, who is a literature teacher named Ella. But Ella sort of discovers all of these mysteries involved with the society. There's this mysterious 10th member who everyone seems to have forgotten about, but they recollect that he was this literature prodigy. There's a game, The Game, which is sort of mysterious, and you figure out how indeed it is played. I don't want to say more without, giving it away. There's a mysterious disappearance, and words inside books are slowly starting to rearrange themselves. So it's just a very exciting premise for a book, and I love books about books, but I found that the ending sort of fell short for me, that it left me with a lot of unanswered questions and really wanted me to put pieces together that I wasn't ready to. But I do think it's a wonderful commentary on creativity, on reputation and prestige and originality. It addresses the question, is anyone truly original? And what makes an original and creative person? So the next 2 books I read in November were actually comic series, and they are Paper Girls and Bitch Planet, Both of them are amazing comics that I suggest you check out. They're not finished, and I don't know when the next issues are coming out. If you follow these comics and know when the next issues are coming out, I would love to know because I'm really excited to read them. But Paper Girls is about a group of 12-year-olds who are newspaper delivery girls, and it's 1988. It starts on the night of Halloween, and they uncover what the back of it always calls the most important story of all time. You don't really know what that is, even when you keep reading about it, but it definitely is intriguing and has something to do with time travel, future selves, generational wars of some sort. The details are still a little hazy, which is why I want to know when the next issue is coming out. Bitch Planet is a little easier to explain. It is a feminist dystopia about a futuristic society where the world is ruled by patriarchal overlords. It focuses on a number of women who have been imprisoned in an off-planet prison, which is known as the Auxiliary Compliance Outpost, for being non-compliant, whatever that means. You figure out what that means, of course. And that prison is colloquially called Bitch Planet. It's kind of like Orange is the New Black meets a feminist dystopia, which is pretty awesome, and I highly recommend that you check it out. So the next book that I read was The Strange Library by Haruki Murakami, and I actually did a whole review video on that, which I'll put in the description down below, so you should check that out if you're interested in hearing more about The Strange Library or Haruki Murakami. So the last book that I read in the month of November was Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. Now, this book was frankly a disappointment to me. I thought it was going to be this fantastic story that illuminates key concepts of the transgender movement, but instead it focused on 3 generations of Greek immigrants trying to achieve the American dream in Detroit. We really actually don't get to the narrator's story until somewhere between pages 200 and 300. They're not even born until page 217. And when we finally do get to their story, they weren't transsexual as I originally thought they would be, but they were actually intersex. They have a rare genetic disorder called 5-alpha reductase deficiency, which means basically they have too much testosterone because they can't convert it into DHT, and basically they end up with the formation of ambiguous genitalia. I also felt that the main character didn't have a very strong voice in the novel. I didn't truly get a sense of what it was like for the narrator, and I wasn't sure how relatable the narrator was to others who may be transgender because they have such a rare genetic disorder. The writing was over-exaggerated, and honestly it makes comparisons that were either not apt or not fully explored. For example, at one point, the process of discovering one's gender identity was compared to the transition of their grandparents as new immigrants to the States. Now, I think that that has a lot of potential, but sometimes Eugenides does a wonderful job of making subtle connections and metaphors, but then sometimes he just acknowledges these connections too much, and it becomes really heavy-handed. Basically, I think that him trying to make this book an epic took away from the potential that this book had, and it ended up just falling kind of short for me. There were really poignant moments throughout the book, but again, as a whole, something just felt like it was missing. The ideas behind it were just fantastic. I just felt that they weren't executed in a way that really lived up to my expectations. So that's all I have for you. I'm interested to see what you guys thought of these books, if you've read them, and what you read in the month of November, and I'd love for you to leave me comments down below and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I look forward to seeing you in another video soon. Bye!